Welcome back, everyone. We have another really good show. We have a lot of people lined up to ask questions. And anything that I say is definitely not meant to diagnose or replace your medical care. So definitely check with your physician before, you know, implementing anything we're going to talk about. So let's dive right in, Steve.
All right. Well, we've got a whole great and interesting crowd in our green room, and one in particular from my old stomping grounds in Southern California. Kimmer is out in the desert on the way to Las Vegas marking for utilities. So she's a brave gal, and she's on with us. And Dr. Kimmer, you're on with Dr. Berg.
Hi, Dr. Berg.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. My question is, I started the diet March 1st, the keto and intermittent fasting. And maybe 3 weeks in, I felt kind of faint as I was getting up from a box, a pull box. And it's like all my muscles just quit at the same time. And so I thought, I'm going to do the electrolytes because that sounds like a great idea. But that was when it wasn't hot. Now, today we're looking at 110 degrees. And I'm wondering, because I have my bottle right here, how many can I do? How many bottles can I do in a day? And because I don't know how much I'm sweating, because honestly, I don't feel it because it's a dry heat. And so, but I know I am sweating because, you know, you feel the heat, you feel the woozy a little bit. So that's what I was wondering, like how many servings?
Yeah. Good question. Are you in Barstow or Lancaster?
Oh, I'm farther out. I'm actually in Las Vegas.
Oh, you're farther. Okay, because I practiced in Lancaster for a bit, but that was definitely hot. I understand it's a dry heat, so you don't really know what's going on. So the electrolytes were designed for the average person who is very deficient in potassium. But if they use the electrolytes in hot weather or when they're exercising, it's very important to add more sea salt. And if you don't have enough sea salt, guess where you're going to feel it? Your muscles. You're going to feel weak.
Okay.
So you could take is really as much as you want, as much as you need, maybe a couple scoops per day. But the key is adding more sea salt to that. So if you put some sea salt, maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon in your water, just mix it all in, dissolve it, slug it down. I think you'll feel refreshed. I think you'll feel stronger. But we lose a lot more sodium than we do other minerals. So that's really the secret. But so the combination, I think, would help you greatly.
I'm so impressed by the taste because when you said there's no sugar in it, I was like, oh, this is going to be like, okay. No, it's amazing. Like, I drink this instead of soda, and I've been drinking Dr. Pepper since I was born, basically. So yeah, this stuff is amazing. Thank you so much for creating
I appreciate that because it took us a long time and a lot of trial and error to make it work and to find the flavorings that were didn't have the hidden maltodextrin. So unfortunately, those are more expensive. So that's, but you know what? I'm into quality, so that's why we put it in there. I'm glad you like it.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Kimmer, for taking time out of your busy day in that big rumbling diesel. And she, like I said, has an amazing attitude for being out there in the middle of the desert. And I made that trip a few times, Doc, to Vegas. And, you know, if you break down on 15, God help you. God help you. Yeah, you're going to be a dry lizard in 2 seconds. Anyway, thank you, Kimmer, again, and have fun out there. And let's kick it off with the first quiz, Doc. And here it is.
All right. So let's see if I can. Okay, I don't see it, Steve.
All right, well, I'm going to aid you. And the first question says, what's in bread that makes it so addictive? And I would certainly like to know that. So audience, what's in bread that makes it so addictive? And that is your first question of the day. And let's not ignore all the wonderful folks on social media. So Chuck from YouTube, why do my varicose veins hurt so much? I've been fasting for most of my 85 years, but this pain only has started in recent years. Help.
Well, I don't know if it's your vascular system. It could be the nerves that go to the vascular system that causes more perception of pain. that's just my guess. I would have to do a bigger evaluation, but I think one thing that I would recommend that you need more of, anything related to neuritis or related to like nerve pain, that would be B1. So that would be nutritional yeast. I would recommend that. You may just find that solves your problem. Now, you can get certain types of pain from the vascular system, either creating pressure on the nerves. I don't know your situation. I don't know if you're exercising, but definitely the best thing to do for that would be to get more circulation, into those structures through exercise, and that normally would handle things related to pressure building up in your circulatory system.
That's terrific. And there's certainly no shortage of people that ain't got a gallbladder no more. And Linda is asking if your gallbladder formula is the only thing I need is I don't have a gallbladder, or do I need some digestive enzymes, and will they help lower cholesterol?
Well, bile salts help mobilize cholesterol. In fact, it's the major route where you get rid of excess amount of cholesterol and triglycerides. So my gallbladder formula has not just bile, it has enzymes, it has the betaine hydrochloride, has things to thin the bile. It's a really interesting combination of a lot of things to help all the different major digestive organ structures. So a lot of people like it because it has this combination. And, I've worked over the years perfecting the ratios of different things. So it's a really good, high quality product that you might want to try. I would take it just with your meals, because when you don't have the gallbladder, you're just not going to have the quantity of bile and the stored concentration of bile that you need to be released and then help you extract these fat soluble vitamins. So, that gallbladder is a really important structure, that sac, to help you contract and get the amount of bile. And people just doctors just don't talk about the importance of bile and the gallbladder. It's not an extra organ. Okay. It's not an extra organ. That was a mistake that we have. It is definitely not that. So if whoever tells you that just does not understand the function of bile and the gallbladder. So I always like to tell people to ask the doctor that says something kind of crazy like that. Just say, well, what is the purpose of the gallbladder? And if they say there is no purpose, then find another doctor.
Hear, hear. Okay, folks. Well, it's time for us to acknowledge all the wonderful people that are watching us out of the world. And later in the show, Daniel from Mexico City will be on. So he's representing Mexico wonderfully. And in addition to him, there are people joining us from the UK, Canada, France, Dubai, Australia, Pakistan, Jordan, Jamaica, Macedonia, Switzerland, Germany, Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, Japan, Kenya, the Philippines, Algeria, India. Oops, it slipped in my fingers. Let's see, where were we? Ethiopia, Kashmir, Zimbabwe, Sri Lanka, Panama, the list grows, Malaysia, Norway, South Africa, Cuba, Wales, Sweden, Lucia, I guess I said that right, Ireland, Hungary, Chile, Finland, Peru, I don't want to leave anybody out, Austria, Serbia, the Bahamas, Belgium, Romania, Zambia, Scotland, my old haunts, Greece, Mexico, Poland, Taiwan, Morocco, Egypt, Croatia, come on, Terry, this is amazing, Cameroon, Portugal, and all across these United States. And again, Daniel, who'll be up with us later representing Mexico. So thanks everyone so much for watching. And speaking of listeners, we have the answer to the first question, which asked, hang on, let me read that again. What's in bread that makes the darn stuff so addictive? And 70% of our respondents say gluten, 20% say fructose and other forms of sugar, and 10% say it's the yeast.
Okay. The answer is it's gluten. And that's interesting that many people knew that, because what is it about gluten that's so good? Well, first of all, it helps you with this amazing texture, right, of the bread. But there's certain types of proteins in gluten that mimic opioids. So as you know, we do have an opioid problem, like fentanyl is a synthetic opioid, which is highly addictive and creates devastating effects. So now we're actually getting a little bit of a like a little bit of fentanyl every time you eat bread. It's like it just kind of gets you this. Wow, I feel so good. I feel this sense of euphoria, like eating bread. So this is why it's addictive. So if you were to, this is why people, when they do even gluten-free bread, they don't really like it as much. They don't become as addictive. So that is why. And so, if you like bread, and unfortunately, if you attempt or even hint to take away someone's bread, some people get upset. So I think it's just really important for people to understand, like, why do I like it so much? So there's actually something in there that mimics a drug. So I'm going to be doing a video on that. So, and the title of that video is going to be, "You may never eat bread again after watching this video."
My goodness.
Warning.
Well, I wanted to give some hope to the folks. So I'm intermittent fasting and cutting out carbs tremendously. And when I used to try to knock off bread and sugar and so on, it was agonizing. I see somebody slather some butter on it, but I really don't have an urge for it anymore. And that's the first time in my entire life. I still think about some of the sweets, and I have to kind of put that out of mind. But thank goodness bread is no longer agonizing me. And I know that's because of Dr. Berg's various routines, intermittent fasting and, keto. So I'm very, very thankful that I don't have to do that battle anymore, and nor do many people in our audience who report such things. Let's see, Cassandra from YouTube. I've been taking your electrolyte powders and sleeping like a baby and feeling awesome. Which multivitamins do I need to take?
Well, I don't have a multivitamin. However, the Keto Energy is probably the closest to that because it has all the natural vitamin combinations with certain B vitamins that are in the natural form. But honestly, I think that you should attempt to get the majority of your vitamins from food. The number one vitamin sold out there, that I'm talking, they make billions. I'm not going to mention their name, and they're a multivitamin. I mean, it's probably the top 3 companies. They're just like pure synthetic. The quality of those ingredients are so low that and they're selling all these, and people just think, oh yeah, I'm getting these great nutrients. Well, I don't know if you are. So try to get it from food.
That's interesting. Okay, let's see. So Bridget, maybe she's a weightlifter from YouTube. I'm 3 weeks into keto and I'm at my desired weight and I feel great, but I want to drop my body fat percentage from 36 to 30. Boy, that's specific. What can I do to achieve this goal?
Well, 2 things. You want to drop your insulin levels as much as you can to get leaner. So you need to go lower carb and fast longer. Those 2 actions will make you very, very lean. And then you could also add more exercise too.
Wonderful. Harry wants to know a good way to gain weight without consuming carbs.
Well, I'm guessing you don't want to gain fat. You want to gain muscle, I'm guessing. So maybe make sure your quantity of food is higher. If your metabolism is fast, you're going to eat more food. And so, maybe keep your carbs at the max, like 50 grams per day, and consume carbs that don't turn into sugar very fast, and then increase your fat. That's going to be really important. And then exercise to stimulate the muscle to make them respond by becoming larger. So we're really just dealing with, we don't have carbs, protein, and fats, right? So you're just going to have more of that, but not too much protein. Don't go crazy with excessive, massive amounts of protein, because some of that can turn into sugar as well.
Terrific. Dutch guy, I'm sure that's his real name, says, you said you don't favor synthetic supplements, but how about cod liver oil supplements that contain synthetic vitamin E?
No, I don't like that. I don't like that. There's some really interesting data on these synthetic vitamin E. I mean, the only time I'd recommend synthetic vitamin E is if you're doing a detox, a short-term, let's say a month or 2 detox, but not as a long-term maintenance. Why? Because these synthetic the chemistry of synthetic vitamins are very, very different, and synthetic phytonutrients as well. And they might act like an antioxidant, but then they become an oxidant. So they can create more oxidation. And I'm telling you, there's not a lot of long-term safety studies on these. And it might sound like they're harmless, but I wouldn't trust them. So I hope that answers that. And if you're going to take a vitamin E, one of the best sources, the type I would get would be tocotrienols. That's a really good type of vitamin E. It's a kind of a new concept for people. They're used to tocopherols, but tocotrienols just they work a lot better.
Terrific. Well, Catherine seems to have a complaint that you've talked about. I'm very thin and healthy. You're not thin. And I do IF and would like to continue for a lifetime, but I'm slowly losing more weight. Will my weight stabilize? I'm 5'9", 140 pounds, and 45 years old.
Yeah, they should stabilize. You want to add just eat more food. Here's the problem when you start doing fasting. You start burning your fat, and then now you're not hungry anymore because you're burning your fat. So so some people with a very fast metabolism, they just need to eat a lot more food when they eat. Not frequent meals, but more food and probably more fat for sure. So there's a condition of epilepsy, right? For the kids that have epilepsy, a lot of times they'll start the ketogenic diet, but a very large percentage of them don't stick with it, unfortunately, because the type of keto that they're recommending is just like crazy unhealthy, and they don't look at the ingredients. And it's just just drink a bunch of cream with add this in there, and they even have terrible canned keto shakes. With the epilepsy, you want to really have your ratio to fat to protein, like really a lot of fat and not as much protein. So it's like a 2 or 3 to 1 fat to protein. And there is a way to do that is so healthy. You just need to like rearrange the foods to create this super high fat, moderately low protein and very low carb to help these kids. And that way you'll get compliance, you'll get health. But if you do it the regular way that is like being promoted, you're going to have your kid is going to have a lot of digestive problems, and they'll give up. So when it could really work for them. So I will be doing some videos on that because I know there are kids out there that could benefit from this. I mean, immensely.
Terrific. Okay, let's kick off another question. This one's a true false. If you don't get GI symptoms from gluten, then you're safe to eat it. Is that true or false, audience?
And I'm talking about digestive problems. If you don't get any digestive problems when you eat gluten, I mean, must be okay to eat, right? I mean, that's true, correct?
We'll see. We'll see if the audience has an opinion on that. Stand by just a moment here, Doc. Let's see. Why don't we go back to social media for a moment. Oh, wow, here's another gallbladder one. Donna from YouTube, I have no gallbladder. That's a common theme. And I'm a type 2 diabetic who's had a complete hysterectomy. What can I do to lose weight quickly?
Well, you still have your thyroid, so make sure you save that, right? Hopefully they didn't take that out. You just need to, you need more data. You need more videos to watch, and you need to support the missing organs so you have more of a complete body function. But the quick answer is very simply to go on my healthy version of ketosis with intermittent fasting as your basic thing before you think about anything else. Just get on that program, go to my website, search it, drberg.com, get on it, and then watch what happens and see if you really need to do anything else, because that is so powerful. The results are fantastic, and you'll see when you do it. And so that way, no one has to kind of educate you on it, because it works because you tried it. That's really the most important thing, is you have to try it out to see if it works for you.
Terrific. Okay, let's go back to the green room, and we've got Dana, who I kept calling Holly because she's from Holly, Michigan, but she's forgiven me, and we're going to bring her up on the air, and there she is. Dana, you're on with Dr. Berg.
Hi, Dr. Berg.
Hi.
I have a little bit of a complicated situation that I don't know how to get out of. My husband does most of the cooking and just about all the grocery shopping, and he sabotages me regularly.
Mm.
I tell him what I want. I give him a list, and he always seems to come home with so many really, really tempting treats like bread and chocolate and ice cream. And he eats differently than I need to. He had a bypass surgery many, many years ago, but still feels like he needs to eat all the time, and his weight is obviously increasing. But I can't get him on the same page with me. Do you have any advice for me to how to handle that and what I can do to maybe get my temptation levels down?
There's a type of therapy. It's called, let me think, strangulation therapy.
Yeah.
Now, what I would honestly, if after a period of time you can't convince them, I would personally bite the bullet and you just buy your own food. Go get your own food, keep it separate, because unfortunately, sometimes when you have family in there, it's really hard to keep everyone on board, on the same viewpoint. They don't always have the same viewpoint. So now you have to cope as best as you can. I would personally buy your own food and cook your own food. And that way you control it. You're in charge. You're not dependent on anyone else. And so I think that's the simple answer. After you try it.
Now I got to learn how to cook.
Here's the thing. I'll give you an example of what I ate yesterday. I mean, I'm not doing any weird, like wild recipes. I took some lettuce leaves. I took some ham, slice of cheese, a little mayonnaise with a slice of tomato, and I made my little sandwich. I had like several of those, and that was my meal. So you don't necessarily have to do any type of major recipes, or like you should find some recipes that have like 4 items to put together, and do it that style, which is kind of boring, but it's simple. I've been doing that for forever. So yeah.
Okay. I'll give it a try.
Yeah. Make it simple. Don't add too many complexities because we want you just to stay on the plan so you can do it long enough to get the results.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Let hubby have it, for goodness sakes. Dana, get him on board with all this stuff. Well, thanks for being on with us.
I'll get him in line.
That's great. So, by the way, at one of our former summits, long before COVID hit, I watched Dr. Berg in action. So he says all these things, but does he do them? Yes. They had all sorts of, well, actually, it was a clean slate for food, but there was plenty of stuff you could get in trouble with in that big hotel. And he wolfed down the lettuce and all the things he described, even though he could have maybe taken a cheat weekend from all the pressure he had with this big summit, but he didn't. So, if some people are saying, gee, it's a little tough, well, maybe it is, but I'm telling you, Dr. Berg doesn't, so does Karen. They look 20 years younger than their actual age. Doc, you're 85 now, right? Isn't that?
Yes, I'm 85 and going on 23.
There you go. No, but they walk the walk. Trust me, I can see it. Well, I sneak off and do something bad in the corner, but anyway, I'm learning. Okay, let's see. What do we have up next? Let me see if we've got some answers to the question. Yes, we do. And the question, once again asked, true, false. If you don't get GI symptoms from gluten, then you're safe to eat it. And the audience, 100% say that's absolutely false. Who's right?
I was just, the only reason I asked that question is just to see if anyone did say that's true. I wanted to know because what's interesting, when you consume gluten, for example, and you feel bloated, whatever, like you, wow, maybe I have gluten intolerance, maybe I have celiac, things like that. But here's what's happening. Like I just said before, you're stimulating opioid receptors. It's kind of like a little bit like this morphine effect, which numbs some or masks some of these GI pain syndromes that you would normally have, that you don't feel it, but the damage brews in the evidence. So it's called non-celiac or asymptomatic celiac disease, which I think a large percent of the population might have a version of this. where they don't get the GI symptoms. They get other symptoms like autoimmune problems with like Hashimoto's, for example. They might get fatigue, insomnia, skin reactions, psoriasis, all these other symptoms that they would never connect to this gluten until they one day decide to do the ketogenic diet and they know they can't have bread anymore. And all of a sudden, all these problems clear up. It might not even be the lowering of insulin. It could just be the elimination of gluten. So I am going to release the video on that. I think it's worth watching because there's some fascinating things about this gluten that you maybe never heard before.
Okay, whenever you want a chunk of bread, just grab some of Dr. Berg's nutritional yeast. Just gulp a couple of those things down and the urge will drift away. Let's see. Kimberly wants to know if when doing prolonged fasting, should I continue taking my TUDCA and probiotics?
Well, it depends what you're trying to solve. TUDCA is good for a lot of things, bile sludge, nausea. It's not like a long-term product. You take it until you kind of get enough bile and then change your diet and then you're good. But it's also shown some powerful other benefits, including decreasing allergies, restoring liver function, quite a few things. You should watch my video on TUDCA. It's actually just I didn't know anything about it until like 2 years ago, but it's a fascinating synthetic bile that is basically mimicking bile from a bear. And so in a lot of ancient cultures, they use this bear bile for a lot of different things. But, the problem is killing all these bears is a big problem. So they made it synthetically, which apparently doesn't seem to have any side effects that I could see. But the benefits like far outweigh the any potential problems. But it thins the bile. And if someone has like bloating or pain right around the pancreas or pancreatitis or any type of backup of this bile and they start getting right shoulder pain or upper back pain, this is like the miracle. So it's something that I wish I knew about it a long time ago, but I don't have a recommendation. So you just have to seek it out, do your own research and find it. If you need it, it works great. If you don't need it, then don't get it.
Great advice. Okay, now Bulky Zena is on YouTube, and again, we hear all these things and questions, but there's so many people that are grateful for what you've done. And formerly Bulky Zena, I guess, says she's lost 30 pounds in January, thanks to fasting. All thanks to you, Dr. Berg. So that's a lot of that, and it's great to hear some acknowledgments of how this stuff works. So thank you, Bulky
I appreciate
Zena.
that very much. Thank you.
Yes, a shrinking Bulky Zena. Let's see. Okay. We did that one. Christina, can I do the keto diet with Afib?
I think you should because atrial fibrillation is a form of arrhythmias, which normally come from a lack of electrolytes, especially potassium and magnesium, how do you become deficient in magnesium and potassium? Well, number one, you're not consuming enough foods that have those trace minerals like large groups of salad, but also the amount of carbs will deplete potassium and magnesium to a very large amount. So I think it can help you greatly. But just realize there's one more connection between arrhythmias or even atrial fib and your digestive system. If you don't have enough bile, because there's some little problem with your liver, because you have a fatty liver, because you do carbs, or you have a gallbladder issue, that can create palpitations or arrhythmic issues. So purified bile salts can help you with that if that's the cause. So, I just have a lot of videos on these relationships that you can look at and figure out, why you have the problem you have. And one last point, I didn't have atrial fib, but I had severe heart arrhythmic problems a while ago, and nothing worked, right? Here, my diet's great. And then I find out this interesting connection between electromagnetic fields. So I got this device, I might even have it around here, and I started to check my house, my computer, massive with the battery backup and the power cables. So I fixed all that, Still didn't improve anything. And then I had this idea to check the rest of my house, and I found that the wall in the back of our headboard where my bed is was off the chart, like 8 feet. It was extending 8 feet, these electromagnetic fields. And so I literally had to have an electrician come in and tear out the wall and find all these wires crossed. And it was producing electromagnetic. I was basically sleeping in this bathing in this electromagnetic field, which is not good for your heart. And once they corrected that, completely gone, slept like a baby. So if you have that problem, watch my video on EMF because I talk about it.
That's fantastic. Well, Allison from Edison, New Jersey, popped off and just popped back on. So while we've got her, I want to take her. And Allison, you are on with your one question with Dr. Berg. Uh-oh, Allison, can you hear us? All right, we'll go back.
It looks like she's muted.
Okay, Allison, are you muted? She's not hearing us. Well, she's had a little issue with her internet, so we'll go back to her in a while. How about if we go to our former guest, Daniel, who's in Mexico City. And Daniel, you, sir, are on with Dr. Berg.
Hey, Dr. Berg.
Hello.
Hey, great to hear you again. Well, I've been doing the keto and fasting for maybe now 6 months, and it's been amazing the way it's been helping me to solve all type of issues that I had last year. The only thing that I'm still trying to solve is my high levels of cholesterol. I've been watching your videos on cholesterol. I've been running away from every single opinion regarding statins and things like that. But I'm still, struggling with cholesterol around 400 milligrams of cholesterol. And I'm 35 years old doing keto and fasting. So any suggestions?
Did you see my video today that I released?
Not yet.
Okay. I think that's what you're missing. The main control of a bile, getting rid of any extra, is the bile. The bile controls cholesterol. So cholesterol is controlled by bile. That's from your gallbladder. So taking bile salts would be very important. But here's the thing: you have two types of bile. You have primary bile that's made by your liver, and you have secondary bile. Did you know about secondary bile?
No.
Yeah, that's made by your microbes in your gut. So let's say, for example, you had a history of something that killed off your microbes, or maybe antibiotic or whatever. Okay, you're wondering why you don't have enough bile to deal with this cholesterol. So taking a probiotic would be good, but in addition to the bile salts. But, a really good way to get these microbes is to make your own sauerkraut or kimchi, or make your own kefir, because kefir and the fermented vegetables, especially if you make them, it is like way, way, way higher in microbes than if you buy it at the store, unless you find like from the farmer's market. So recently I'm into the kefir thing, and I found that in my state I can get raw milk. So I'm making it raw milk. What a difference. Huge. And these microbes, you can make it really sour, so you have like super amounts of microbes and friendly yeast. And you start taking that, it repopulates your gut. Now you start building the secondary bile salts that can then now help you with this cholesterol overload. So that's the real two answers: the bile salts, TUDCA, and then also the probiotic. I think that's like the missing link.
Awesome. Sounds great. I will try to keep you posted, and thank you so much for everything.
You're welcome. Yeah, these microbes are just so interesting to me because they break down food, they break down certain proteins, and they give you all these new flavors, like from cheese and yogurt, and of course bread. And I'm just being sarcastic because they don't really eat bread in Mexico. But but I tell you, it's they sure give these wonderful flavors from all these different fermented products that you can make. So I'm like doing major research in this area. I even bought this right here, which is a lactic acid test kit. So I can start checking how much lactic acid I'm making and do all these interesting experiments. So I'm having some fun doing that.
That's wonderful. What could be more natural than honey? And Robert wants to know if it's good or bad for us.
I don't recommend honey because it's very high in sugar. And well, you might say it's natural, but yeah, but it's just too high in sugar. So, of course, it's better than refined sugar, but I don't recommend it in any products. Now, what about bee pollen? Yeah, that's good for the immune system, but not honey. And then you also people who say, well, what about fruit? Fruit's natural. Why can't I do fruit? I mean, you could. The only reason I don't recommend fruit, berries are okay, but the fruit first of all is not necessarily the natural version that our bodies were designed to consume a long time ago. Fruit wasn't as sweet, didn't have the carbohydrates, and it was seasonal. So it wasn't something all year round. So it just gives us way too much sugar. In fact, all I did was consume, I think maybe 2 apples a day, and my weight went up to 211 pounds. And if you watch my earlier videos, you'll see my face was literally round and my eyes were puffy. And that was the 2 apples. Now, they were Honeycrisp. They had 19 grams of sugar per apple. But that's all that I did different than I'm doing now. The darn apple. So gives you a lot of sugar.
Bummer. Okay, time for another question. This is a true falser. The primary reason to consume bone broth is to get more protein. Well, audience, is that true or is that false? And I know they're sharpening their pencil right now, getting on it. Let's see. Okay, Barbara from YouTube, I'm fasting now, but can that slow down my metabolism and perhaps make me more prone to sickness?
No, fasting doesn't slow down your metabolism. It actually speeds it up. Sometimes people put out this false information that you have to eat frequently to stimulate your metabolism. Really? So, in other words, I should have all these snacks and then I'm going to have a fast metabolism. No, 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 no. It's going to increase insulin, and then you're going to have insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is really behind a very damaged, slow metabolism. In fact, you're going to develop this set point that's very high. So you'll never be able to get below a certain weight unless you correct insulin resistance, which comes from the frequent eating. So fasting can actually help correct your metabolic pathways, metabolic syndrome, and insulin resistance so you can have a faster metabolism again.
That's terrific. Why don't we go to Reed in Bend, Oregon, who has a question for you. Reed, you're on with Dr. Berg.
Good morning. My question is very similar to Daniel's. I've been on your healthy keto plan for about 3 months now. Take a lot of your supplements, really cognizant of my electrolyte intake, sea salt, really kind of following your program the best that I can. And recently had my lab work done. Everything was great except for my lipid profile. My cholesterol was 209, which I'm not really concerned with. Triglycerides 160 and 133 for the LDL. My doctor recommended that I consider Lipitor, which I declined. Everything that I've been doing, my assumption is that I'm trending in the right direction, but I'm just curious if there's some tweak, and you've already mentioned a couple of things that some I'm already doing. But yeah, my question is regarding the 209 cholesterol.
Yeah, that's honestly, I don't know if it was 25 or 35 years ago. The normal cholesterol was 225 and they lowered it to 200. And all of a sudden they put everyone on a lot of drugs overnight. They did the same thing, if I'm not mistaken, with the BMI index. Honestly, I would definitely watch the video I released today because if you're concerned, you do an advanced lipid profile test. Look at the two different types of LDL particle sizes, and I have a video explaining that, but you're going to find that the type of LDL particle that you have is going to be the large buoyant, which is not the type that invades the arteries. Because you're doing keto, you're mobilizing a lot of the cholesterol from your fat cells. And so, this is going to be a temporary thing until you stabilize. But with a little bit of probiotic and bile salts, things will improve faster. But I would definitely recommend getting that advanced lipid profile test and learn more about it, because you're going to find that this is a normal thing happening, and it's you're not in danger of a heart problem.
Unfortunately, my doctor declined letting me take that test, encouraged me to do a coronary calcium test, which I actually just canceled because I really not interested in having the radiation at this point. But I do take your gallbladder formula twice a day and your probiotic solution every evening before bed. So, I mean, I think if I tested 4 months ago, my numbers would be quite a bit different than they are now. I think I'm trending in the right direction, but I appreciate your insight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I always like to, when you're working with a physician, you got to find someone that is at least open enough to work with you. And, there's so many docs out there. It's like, okay, find someone that is, there's a cardiologist, a keto friendly cardiologist that can also, if you ever need to talk to someone, they consult people remotely, and then you can get this other viewpoint that is not so fixed on the same old. So, but I thought it sounds like you're on the right track, Reed. So I think you're just going to probably continue and, cross that road later if you need to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's great, Reed. And please do get back with us as things progress and tell us how you're doing. We always love to hear. We like the backstory, but we like what happens afterwards. So thanks for joining us today. That's terrific. And, not only are people in the green room participating, but so are everyone in the audience, because they've quickly answered the next question. True, false? The primary reason to consume bone broth is to get more protein. And the audience, 85% say false, 15% say it's absolutely true.
Well, I mean, it can be one reason, but the two big things about bone broth is, number one, it helps the gut issues, because it has certain factors that help the permeability or the leakiness of the gut, and so that's one issue, the gut. Number two is actually arthritis and joint problems. But they don't really know why that works. But a lot of people take it for arthritis. Is it the collagen? Is it this? Is it that? I will be releasing a video on another theory that I think is why it might help your joints. And there's also a huge connection between your gut problems and your joints, as far as especially autoimmune, like rheumatoid and even some other types of arthritis problems. So stay tuned for that video. I'm not going to reveal this interesting, fascinating theory that I think is the real reason why people feel better with their joints, especially with autoimmune, when they take bone broth.
Very good. Okay, so this question stressed me out just reading it. Can stress cause cancer? I immediately started doing some deep breathing exercises just in case. Audience, what do you think? Does stress cause cancer? We want to know. And by the way, speaking of videos, we've got Janie that's going to be coming on with us. And she said, can I ask Dr. Berg about maybe doing a video? And I said, he insists on stuff. He really loves that. So in addition to your one question, Janie, we're going to also have you ask Dr. Berg about a video that he may produce for you. Okay, hang on just a second. Let's see. You, Janie, are on the air with Dr. Berg.
Yeah, and she just has to unmute.
Oh, yeah, you're muted, dear.
There we go.
Okay. Thank you so much for all the research you do for all of us. We really appreciate it because you're now my go-to with any health concern. I type in Dr.Berg and whatever the issue, and I watch what you have to say.
Great.
So I've been doing healthy keto intermittent fasting for about a year. I've lost 20 pounds, kind of stabilized despite doing the OMAD and a couple days and things. My HOMA IR is 2.0, which seems okay. It's probably come down because I think it was more resistant. But I had a DNA test done that had a KMO factor, and it says that numerous studies suggest that brain KYNA is a biologic marker of neuroinflammation. As KYNA production is increased in animals on a ketogenic diet, this type of diet may not be optimum for you. Now, they probably didn't test it on a healthy keto, so I don't really know what that means, but I'm wondering if that relates to any of the struggles I've had because my blood ketones won't seem to go above 0.3. I lose my appetite enough to do the longer fast, but then I'm not losing weight. So I get mixed messages on what my body's doing, and I still get tired after salads and vegetables, etc.
So that when you read up about that genetic, whatever it is, did they say what diet to go on, like a high carb diet?
No, which obviously isn't going to be helpful either. But so I don't know I didn't really know what to make of that. So I've kind of ignored it, but then I started thinking, well, maybe there's a connection with why I'm not doing as well with it.
So would you say the main symptom, it would be fatigue?
Fatigue and weight is stabilized. Like 20 pounds isn't that much, and I don't really have that much more that I need to lose, but I'm thinking over the last 6 months, why can I not seem to break that plateau? But yeah, I feel better if I go on a trip and go off for a bit and then come back. I actually feel more energy all day on carbs, and I'm like, this isn't good. I'm not supposed to feel good when I'm eating poorly. But when I'm doing it, I do the lemon juice and electrolytes in the morning. I take a full lemon off the tree. I do about a teaspoon of salt, and I need a lot of electrolytes. I need extra iron. I need extra iodine, and I just can't seem to feel right, though I'm, bragging about how wonderful this is. And people say, how much have you lost? Oh, 20 pounds.
Got it. Well, I think there a lot of times these things are connected because you really want to figure out why would someone be tired. So then the question I have would be sleep. Do you have quality sleep? Do you feel refreshed when you go to sleep?
I do well with sleep.
Okay. And what about your stress level? How has that been recently?
I'm mostly retired. I still substitute here and there, but I feel pretty good. So, and I did get the lemon balm tea, thinking if the cortisol, because I may have a cortisol issue even if I don't feel stressed.
Okay. So this is kind of another mystery. When you deal with like this mystery thing here to evaluate, we just need more and more data to see what we're missing here. I'll just give you an example of things that are kind of rolling through my mind. What is your age?
64.
Yeah, so you're past menopause. One thing with women that are past menopause, sometimes they start to develop an iron toxicity. And I'll just give you an example because I've had some other people on keto and they stop menstruating. So now the thing about iron, it tends to accumulate in the body and it can create fatigue for sure. And it could be that little thing on the side that kind of just keeps you from having the full benefits. And this is why even people that are doing, I'm eating grass-fed red meat, and then you find out the iron is just way too high. So in this case, I think a good thing to do would be to find a nutritional doc that does functional medicine, that they can do a deep dive on a bunch of blood tests to look across the board of just anything that kind of jumps out and gives us a clue on what is going on, because I don't know if I agree with this genetic thing. So we have that, right?
Right.
And then with the weight problem, I do know this with a lot of, especially women that are doing this, they hit this plateau and they just can't seem to get below it. And so then what I do is I tell them to do just do a 3-day fast. Okay, good. And then they sometimes they need a prolonged fasting to kick things in gear. And then all of a sudden things start working better and better, doing longer fasts. But because the fasting will clear up things that are weird things too, that like your mood will come up, energy should come up. You start recycling old proteins. You start to lose weight that you couldn't have lost before because you're literally, your body is just running on your fat. So you may need something like that. So these are just kind of thoughts that are running through my head right now.
Okay. Because my iron is actually low, but that, like you said, it's possible.
Okay, good. So then we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, but I did have a vitamin D receptor issue with several genes, and an interleukin 6 receptor and an estrogen receptor 1. I don't know what all this means.
Okay, so this is another thing too, like vitamin D. There was someone else that had a problem with the vitamin D receptor. There's a little mutation there, and you take the normal vitamin D, or even 10,000 IUs, it didn't do anything for her. She had to take 40 to 50,000 IUs of vitamin D with some purified bile salts at the same time to start feeling better. That could be another thing that to test out until you figure this out. But yeah,
Well,
interesting.
I'll keep with it. And if I have several questions that could be videos. Is there a place to send those ideas, like how to interpret HOMA IR results and things like that?
Yeah, you can send it to Dr. Berg at drberg.com and just say, "Attention, Dr. Berg," and then they will send it to me.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate all
Sure.
you do.
No problem.
Oh, and my niece's husband, who's a pizza chef in Italy, loves keto and has had great results. And he said to tell you ciao.
Wow, that's fantastic. Ciao.
That's great. Well, thanks so much, Janie. And let's see if we. Oh, well, first of all, let me get the answer to this question. Can
Hey,
stress?
Steve, before I forget, I want to just mention one thing about this pizza in Italy.
Yes, sir.
So many people go to Italy and they eat the pizza and they're like, wow, I'm not bloating. I'm looking around the room and everyone's eating a whole pizza and they don't seem to be bloating. And in America, you eat pizza and you bloat. What's going on? Well, it relates to the fermentation time. In other cultures, well, especially in Italy, compared to America, they ferment this dough for 2 days, maybe even 3 days. In America, we ferment it for an hour. And that fermentation breaks down gluten. This is why, like sourdough bread, you have a lot less gluten and you don't get the bloating because it's the gluten that just tears up the colon. So that's probably the big factor. That's why people feel better on certain type of grains in other parts of the country because they ferment longer. So remember that, Steve.
I'll keep that in mind. That's amazing. Well, speaking of cancer, 99% say that it's true, and 1% says that it's not true. He must be or she must be very relaxed, and so on. So, Doc, oh, hang on. I better bring that question up. There it is, audience, and thank you for responding so quick. Doc, what's the answer?
So here's some interesting data on this cancer puzzle. I just did an interview with someone. I'm going to post this video in a couple days. But here's a guy who had stage 3 cancer. It was actually borderline stage 4, colorectal cancer. And he was the peak of his health. He ate great. He did intermittent fasting. And in 2020, he came down with this cancer, right? Blood in the stool, and it grew to be 10 centimeters. Okay. So anyway, how the heck did he get cancer? His diet was great. Well, it runs in his family. His dad had cancer and died. I think his brother had cancer and died. And so here he has this cancer. And he did the fasting that we recommended, and he ate what we recommended based on some other videos that we did with another guy who had stage 4. And guess what? Within 4 months, he has no more cancer, right? But my question was, what happened just before you started noticing these symptoms that you had cancer? And I said, did you go through any stress? And he said, yes. With COVID, all of my businesses just shut down because he taught karate. So he had these different places around the United States, I think, that that completely shut down. So he had financial stress, he had relationship stress, and that stress activated through an epigenetic kick in this genetic factor, and bam, got the cancer. So I think stress can activate certain genes that then can cause cancer for sure. But the good news is that when you watch this video, it's going to give people hope that you can do something about it if you come down with cancer. And this is the second interview with someone that had advanced cancer, and they wanted to do all these things to him, and he decided to go in a different route with great success. 4 months, a 10 centimeter tumor in the colon disappearing. I think that should get everyone's attention, and they should watch this video.
My goodness. Well, if you'll excuse me, Dr. Berg, I'm doing deep, slow breaths to try to reduce stress. This has just got me horrified. Hey, I'm going to try to get Allison, if she can hear us, in with us. And Allison, if you can hear us, you're on with Dr. Berg.
I see the mute button there. I mean, her mute button is on.
Yeah. Oh dear, Allison. Well, she doesn't seem to be able to hear us either. And Allison, I'm going to invite you to come on next week. Maybe you can send us an email or send us your questions. So anyway, Dr. Berg, we are fighting against the clock. I would like you to mention to our audience, how the international audience, how they can get your products with less worry and less money.
Well, I'm always trying to find better ways to do cut the shipping expense, because that's always a problem, especially with the diesel fuel expense recently. So and if you go to the links down below, if you're in a different country, we do now have places where you can get the products and you don't have to have them shipped from America. So I'm working on that all the time, and that might help you. But, we have other channels, Steve. We have not just the English channel, we have the Arabic channel, we have the Russian channel, we have a channel in French, I think it's Germany, Taiwanese, and I think there's a total of 8 different languages. And so it's, in fact, the Arabic channel has close to 5 million subscribers already. That's incredible. So there's a lot of people all over the world that are watching this, and this is really exciting because it's working and people are trying these remedies and spreading the word. And this is just awesome. So when you find remedies that work for people, unfortunately, what I'm trying to do is trying to go against the grain and give people solutions to health problems that you may not find when you do your searches. And I have the advantage of being in practice for 30 years and working with actual people and testing ththings out, constantly doing research and trying to make it simple so you can actually, one thing I hate too with videos with it, it's like it takes 45 minutes to get to the point. So I try to get to the point as fast as I can because I don't like these long-winded videos like I'm doing right now. So anyway, on that note, have a wonderful weekend. We will see you next week. Stay tuned for some fascinating videos, and have a wonderful weekend.